The morning sun cast bright light across the busy parking lot as Jonathan Pierce stepped out of his black Tesla. At 35 he had built a tech empire from nothing, but success had not made him forget where he came from. His designer suit was perfectly pressed, his dark hair styled with precision, and his green eyes held the sharp focus of a man who controlled billion-dollar decisions daily. He was heading into the grocery store for his usual breakfast when something caught his attention. A small figure moved between the parked cars, carrying a spray bottle and worn cloth. Jonathan paused, watching as a young African-American girl, no more than 8 years old, approached a silver sedan. Her clothes were clean but clearly hand-me-downs, a faded pink t-shirt and jeans with patches on the knees. Despite the bright morning light, there was something deeply unsettling about seeing such a young child working alone in a parking lot. The girl moved with practiced efficiency, spraying the windshield and wiping it clean in smooth motions. Her small hands worked quickly, and Jonathan noticed a fresh bandage wrapped around her left palm. When the car owner emerged from the store, they handed her a few coins before driving away. The child smiled and waved, but as soon as the car was gone, her shoulders sagged with exhaustion. Jonathan found himself frozen, watching the scene unfold. In all his years of success, he had never seen something that disturbed him more than this moment. A child so young should be playing or learning, not working to survive. The bright daylight made the contrast even more stark, this beautiful morning scene hiding such a harsh reality. He forced himself to continue into the store, but his mind kept returning to the girl outside. Jonathan moved through the aisles mechanically, grabbing a breakfast sandwich and orange juice. At the dairy section he reached for his usual bottle of almond milk, but something made him pause. Instead he picked up a gallon of whole milk. The checkout line moved slowly, giving Jonathan more time to think. Through the large windows he could see the girl still working, moving from car to car with determination that broke his heart. When she was rejected by one driver, she simply moved to the next vehicle without complaint. Finally, Jonathan completed his purchase and walked back outside. The girl was now closer to his car, working on a blue pickup truck. As he approached his Tesla, she noticed him and hurried over with her supplies. "Excuse me, sir," she said in a soft voice that barely carried over the parking lot noise. "Would you like me to clean your windows?" Up close, Jonathan could see she was even younger than he had first thought. Her dark skin glowed in the bright sunlight, and her hair was neatly braided with colorful beads. But her eyes held a weariness that no child should ever have. The bandage on her hand was slightly dirty, suggesting it had been there for days. "Of course," Jonathan said gently, setting down his grocery bag. "That would be very helpful." The girl immediately went to work, spraying his windshield with careful attention to every spot. Her movements were quick but thorough, and Jonathan could tell she took pride in doing good work. As she cleaned, he noticed her glancing at his grocery bag. "What's your name?" he asked. "Destiny," she replied, not pausing in her work. "Destiny Washington. That's a beautiful name. How long have you been washing windows here, Destiny?" She finished the windshield and moved to the side windows. "A few weeks. Since Mama got sick and couldn't work as much." Jonathan's heart tightened. "I see. And how old are you?" 8. "But I'm real good at this job. See how clean your windows are now." Indeed, his Tesla sparkled in the bright morning sun. Jonathan reached into his wallet and pulled out a $20 bill, far more than anyone else had given her. Destiny's eyes widened with surprise and gratitude. "Thank you so much, mister. This will help Mama buy groceries." As she started to turn away, Jonathan noticed her eyes linger on his grocery bag again. Something in her expression made him pause. "Destiny, is there anything else you need?" The girl looked up at him with such hope and vulnerability that it took his breath away. She glanced around nervously, then stepped closer and whispered so softly he had to lean down to hear her. "I just want milk." 3 simple words that hit Jonathan like a physical blow. The way she said it, not demanding, not begging, just a quiet confession of a basic need, shattered something inside him. This was the most unsettling moment of all. Not the sight of her working, not the bandage on her hand, but this whispered admission that something as simple as milk was beyond her reach. "Milk?" he repeated, his voice hoarse with emotion. Destiny nodded, looking down at her worn sneakers. "Mama says we can't afford it right now. But I miss having cereal in the morning. And Mama needs it for her medicine." Without hesitation, Jonathan reached into his bag and pulled out the gallon of whole milk. "Here," he said, extending it toward her. "Take this." Destiny's face lit up with pure joy, but then she hesitated. "I can't pay for it." "You don't need to. You've already earned it by doing such good work on my windows." She accepted the milk with both hands, cradling it like treasure. Thank you, mister. Thank you so much. Mama's going to be so happy. Jonathan watched as she carefully placed the milk in a small wagon he hadn't noticed before, along with her cleaning supplies and the money she had earned. As she prepared to leave, he called out to her. Destiny, will you be here tomorrow? She nodded eagerly. Every morning except Sunday. Mama says Sunday is for rest. I'll see you tomorrow then. As Jonathan drove away, he couldn't stop thinking about that whispered request. I just want milk. Such a simple thing that most people took for granted, yet it meant the world to this little girl. The bright morning that had started so normally had revealed something that would haunt him and change everything. He spent the rest of his drive to the office thinking about Destiny's bandaged hand, her careful work ethic, and most of all, the gratitude in her eyes when he gave her the milk. By the time he reached his downtown high-rise, Jonathan had made a decision. He would be back tomorrow and he would learn more about this remarkable little girl and her family. The elevator ride to his penthouse office felt longer than usual. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city spread out below him in all its morning glory. Somewhere out there, Destiny was walking home with a gallon of milk, probably the highlight of her entire week. The contrast between his world and hers had never been more apparent. His assistant knocked on the door, reminding him of his first meeting. But Jonathan's mind was elsewhere, replaying those 3 whispered words over and over again. I just want milk. Such a small request that had opened his eyes to a reality he had been blind to despite all his success. As the morning progressed and meetings blurred together, Jonathan found himself planning his return to that grocery store. He would buy milk again tomorrow, but more than that, he would find a way to help without making Destiny or her mother feel like charity cases. His business instincts told him to research first, to understand the situation completely before taking action. But his heart told him something different. Sometimes the most important decisions weren't about strategy or planning. Sometimes they were about responding to a whispered request from a child who just wanted milk. The next morning, Jonathan arrived at the grocery store 30 minutes earlier than usual. The parking lot was quieter, with only a few early shoppers moving between their cars. He positioned his Tesla where he could see the entire area and waited. At exactly 7:15, he spotted the small wagon rolling across the asphalt. Destiny appeared, pulling her supplies with the same determination he had witnessed the day before. She had changed into a different outfit, a yellow t-shirt and the same patched jeans, but the bandage on her hand remained. Jonathan went through the motions of shopping, buying his usual items plus another gallon of milk. This time he also grabbed some breakfast pastries and fresh fruit. When he returned to his car, Destiny was already working on a nearby vehicle. Good morning, Destiny, he called out. Her face brightened immediately. Mister, you came back. She hurried over with her supplies. Can I clean your car again? Absolutely. And call me Jonathan. As she worked, Jonathan observed her more carefully. Despite her young age, she moved with efficiency and pride. Her technique had clearly been practiced many times. When she finished, he handed her another $20 bill along with the milk and a bag containing the pastries and fruit. For you and your mama, he said. Destiny's eyes filled with tears of gratitude. Thank you, Mr. Jonathan. You're the nicest person I ever met. Where do you live, Destiny? Maybe I could give you a ride home with all those heavy things. She shook her head quickly. Mama says never get in cars with strangers. But thank you. I only live a few blocks away. Jonathan respected her mother's wisdom while making a mental note of the direction she pointed. After she left with her wagon, he waited 5 minutes before slowly driving in the same direction. He wasn't following to frighten her, but rather to understand her situation better. 3 blocks from the store, he saw Destiny turning into the parking lot of a rundown apartment complex. The buildings were old and weathered, with peeling paint and broken windows patched with cardboard. The parking lot was full of potholes, and the small playground in the center had equipment that looked unsafe. Jonathan parked across the street and watched as Destiny struggled to pull her wagon up a set of concrete steps. She disappeared into a building on the far end of the complex. He noted the address and apartment number, Building C, Unit 2B, before driving away. The contrast between this place and his own downtown penthouse was staggering. The bright morning sun revealed every crack in the building's facade, every piece of trash in the parking lot, every sign of a community struggling to survive. Yet Destiny had walked through it all with her head held high, carrying her precious cargo of milk and food. Back at his office, Jonathan found it impossible to concentrate on work. During his lunch break, he drove past the apartment complex again. In daylight, it looked even more desperate. Laundry hung from fire escapes, and several windows were covered with plastic sheeting instead of glass. That evening, Jonathan made a decision that went against every business instinct he possessed. Instead of researching property records or running background checks, he would simply drive by again and see if there was anything he could do immediately. At sunset, he returned to the apartment complex with his car loaded with groceries. He parked in the visitor section and walked to Building C. The hallway smelled of cooking food and old carpet, but it was clean. Someone was trying to maintain dignity in difficult circumstances. He knocked softly on the door of Unit 2B. Footsteps approached and he heard a woman's voice call out, "Who is it?" "My name is Jonathan Pierce. I met your daughter Destiny this morning. She cleaned my car windows." The door opened slightly, held by a chain lock. Through the gap, he could see a woman in her late 20s with the same beautiful features as her daughter. Her hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and she wore scrubs that suggested she worked in healthcare. "You're the man who gave her the milk," she said, her voice cautious but grateful. "Yes, ma'am. I brought some groceries. I hope you don't mind." She hesitated, clearly torn between pride and need. "That's very kind, but I can't accept charity." "It's not charity," Jonathan said quickly. "Destiny earned it. She does excellent work, and I wanted to make sure she was properly compensated." Through the gap, he could see Destiny appear behind her mother. "Mama, that's Mr. Jonathan. He's real nice." The woman looked at her daughter, then back at Jonathan. After a long moment, she removed the chain and opened the door fully. "I'm Tiana Washington. Please come in." The apartment was tiny but immaculately clean. The furniture was old but well maintained, and children's drawings decorated the refrigerator. Despite the obvious financial struggles, this was clearly a home filled with love. "Mama made pancakes with the milk," Destiny announced proudly. "They were so good." Tiana's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "I'm sorry about Destiny working in the parking lot. I know she's too young, but—" "Please don't apologize," Jonathan interrupted. "She's remarkable. You've raised an incredible daughter." As he spoke, Jonathan noticed the apartment more carefully. The living room served as both a bedroom. There was a cot in the corner and workspace, with medical textbooks stacked on a small table. The kitchen was barely large enough for two people, and he could see through an open door that the single bedroom contained a twin bed and more textbooks. "Are you in school?" he asked Tiana. She nodded, her pride evident despite her circumstances. "Nursing program. I work 3 jobs to pay for it, but some weeks—" She gestured helplessly. "Some weeks there's no money for milk," Jonathan finished gently. Tiana's eyes filled with tears, but she held his gaze steadily. "I don't want you to think I'm a bad mother. Destiny shouldn't have to work, but rent is due tomorrow, and my last paycheck was smaller than expected." "You're not a bad mother," Jonathan said firmly. "You're doing everything you can in an impossible situation. And Destiny is proof that you're succeeding." He set the bags of groceries on their small counter. "Please let me help. Not as charity, but as someone who believes in what you're doing." Tiana stared at the bags for a long moment. Inside were milk, bread, fresh vegetables, meat and other staples that represented several weeks' worth of careful budgeting for her family. "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. "Just keep being the amazing mother you already are," Jonathan replied. "And let Destiny know she has a job cleaning my car windows for as long as she wants it." As he prepared to leave, Destiny hugged his legs tightly. "Will you come visit us again, Mr. Jonathan? If your mama says it's okay." Tiana nodded, still overwhelmed by his kindness. "You're welcome anytime." Walking back to his Tesla, Jonathan felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Not the satisfaction of closing a business deal or the thrill of financial success, but the simple contentment that came from doing the right thing. Behind him, through the apartment window, he could see Tiana and Destiny putting away groceries together. The bright porch light illuminated their faces as they worked, and Jonathan realized that following Destiny home had led him to something far more valuable than he had expected. This wasn't just about helping a struggling family, it was about discovering a part of himself he had forgotten existed. As he drove home to his penthouse, Jonathan was already planning his next visit. But he also knew he needed to be careful. Tiana's pride was important to preserve, and Destiny's childhood shouldn't be stolen by adult worries about money. Whatever help he provided would need to be given with wisdom and respect. The city lights blurred past his windows as Jonathan thought about the woman studying nursing while working 3 jobs, and the little girl who faced each day with courage and hope. Tomorrow he would return to that parking lot, but now he understood that buying milk was just the beginning of something much bigger. Over the following weeks, Jonathan developed a routine that revolved around grocery store visits and window cleanings. Each morning he would find Destiny in the parking lot, always professional despite her young age, always grateful for his business. The bandage on her hand had finally been removed, revealing a small scar that told a story she hadn't yet shared. Their conversations grew longer as trust developed. Destiny told him about her favorite subjects in school, reading and art, her dreams of becoming a teacher, and her worry about her mama working so hard. Jonathan learned to listen more than he spoke, understanding that this 8-year-old carried burdens no child should bear. On a particularly bright Thursday morning, after Destiny had finished cleaning his windows with her usual care, Jonathan made a suggestion that had been forming in his mind for days. "Destiny, would you and your mama like to have dinner with me tonight? There's a nice family restaurant I think you'd enjoy." Her eyes lit up immediately, but then she hesitated. "I'd have to ask Mama. She don't like taking things from people." "It's not taking," Jonathan assured her. "It's friendship. Friends have dinner together." That evening, Jonathan arrived at the apartment complex with a sense of nervous anticipation. He had spent the afternoon thinking about how to approach this properly. Tiana was proud and independent, qualities he admired but that made helping her more delicate. When she opened the door, he was struck again by her natural beauty and grace. Despite the old furniture and cramped quarters visible behind her, she carried herself with dignity that commanded respect. "Mr. Pierce," she said warmly, "Destiny has been talking about dinner all afternoon. Please call me Jonathan. And I hope this is okay. I thought it would be nice to get to know you both better." The restaurant Jonathan had chosen was family-friendly but not too expensive. He didn't want to make Tiana uncomfortable. As they settled into a booth, Destiny bounced with excitement while her mother watched with careful eyes. "This is fancy, Mama," Destiny whispered loudly. "Look, they have cloth napkins." Tiana smiled at her daughter's enthusiasm while Jonathan felt a pang of sadness that something so simple could feel so special to this family. As they ordered, Destiny choosing chicken fingers with wide-eyed delight, Jonathan turned to Tiana. "Destiny mentioned you're in nursing school. That must be incredibly difficult while working." Tiana nodded, her expression growing serious. 3 jobs actually. Night shift at a nursing home, weekend cleaning for an office building, and weekday mornings at a medical clinic. The clinic job is my favorite because I get to help patients, but it pays the least. When do you find time to study? Between 2 and 5 in the morning usually. After I get home from the nursing home, but before I have to get Destiny ready for school. She paused, looking down at her hands. "It's not ideal, but it's temporary. Once I graduate and get my RN license, everything will be different." Jonathan watched her face as she spoke about her dreams. Despite the exhaustion he could see around her eyes, her voice carried unwavering determination. "How long have you been doing this?" he asked gently. 2 years now. I have 8 months left in the program." Tiana glanced at Destiny, who was coloring on her placemat. "We moved to this apartment when Destiny started school. It's not much, but the school district is good, and that's what matters most." "Where were you living before?" Tiana's expression grew distant. "With my mother, but she passed away when Destiny was 5. Cancer. The medical bills." She shrugged, not needing to finish the sentence. Jonathan felt his chest tighten with emotion. "I'm sorry for your loss." "Thank you. She was an amazing woman. She's the one who encouraged me to go back to school. She said education was the one thing nobody could ever take away from us." As their food arrived, Destiny chattered excitedly about her school day, unaware of the deeper conversation happening around her. Jonathan found himself charmed by her innocent observations about her classmates and teachers. "Destiny is clearly brilliant," he told Tiana. "She has such a mature way of looking at the world." "She's had to grow up faster than I wanted," Tiana admitted sadly. "But she never complains. Even when things got really bad last month." "What happened last month?" Tiana hesitated, then seemed to make a decision to trust him. "The apartment complex raised our rent with only 30 days' notice. I had to choose between paying the increase and buying groceries. That's when Destiny started washing windows. She saw me crying over the bills and decided to help." Jonathan's hands clenched involuntarily. "An 8-year-old shouldn't have to worry about rent." "I know," Tiana whispered. "But she insisted. She said if I could work 3 jobs, she could work 1. How do you argue with logic like that?" As the evening progressed, Jonathan learned more about their daily struggles and triumphs. Tiana studied by lamplight because the overhead bulb had burned out and she couldn't afford to replace it. Destiny walked to school every morning even in rain because bus fare was $5 a week they couldn't spare. Yet both mother and daughter faced each challenge with grace and determination. "You're incredible," Jonathan told Tiana as they finished their meal. Truly. What you're accomplishing while raising Destiny alone? It's extraordinary. Tiana blushed, unaccustomed to praise. I'm just doing what any mother would do. No, Jonathan said firmly. You're doing what an exceptional mother would do. Destiny is lucky to have you. On the drive back to their apartment complex, Destiny fell asleep in the back seat. Tiana looked back at her daughter with such tender love that Jonathan had to look away to maintain his composure. She's my whole world, Tiana said softly. Everything I do is for her. I can see that. And she adores you. As they pulled up to the apartment building, Jonathan made a decision. Tiana, I know you value your independence and I respect that. But I'd like to help more substantially. Not as charity, but as an investment in your future. She turned to face him, her expression wary. What do you mean? I mean paying your rent and expenses so you can focus on finishing school without Destiny having to work. You can pay me back once you're working as an RN. Tiana stared at him for a long moment. Why would you do that? You barely know us. Because I believe in you. Both of you. And because every child deserves to be a child, not a window washer worried about rent money. Tears began to flow down Tiana's cheeks. I don't know what to say. Say you'll let me help. Say you'll accept this gift so you can focus on your dreams. She looked back at sleeping Destiny, then at Jonathan. How do I know you're real? People like you don't just appear in parking lots and change lives. Jonathan smiled gently. Maybe they do. Maybe that's exactly how it's supposed to happen. After a long pause, Tiana nodded slowly. Okay. Yes. But I will pay you back every penny once I'm working. I wouldn't expect anything less, Jonathan agreed. As he carried sleeping Destiny up to their apartment, Jonathan felt something shifting inside himself. This wasn't just about helping a struggling family anymore. These two remarkable people were becoming important to him in ways he hadn't anticipated. Tiana tucked her daughter into bed while Jonathan waited in the tiny living room. When she returned, her eyes were bright with unshed tears. I don't know how to thank you, she said. Just keep being the amazing mother and student you already are, Jonathan replied. That's thanks enough. As he drove home that night, Jonathan realized that following a little girl home from a parking lot had led him to something he hadn't known he was looking for. In trying to help Tiana and Destiny, he was discovering parts of himself that success and money had never touched. The bright city lights seemed different now, more welcoming and full of possibility. Tomorrow he would start the process of making sure rent was never a worry for this family again. But tonight he simply felt grateful to have met two people who had reminded him what really mattered in life. Jonathan threw himself into helping the Washington family with the same focused energy he brought to his business ventures. Within days he had quietly paid their back rent and arranged for future payments to be handled automatically. But he was careful to do it in a way that preserved Tiana's dignity. The landlord was told only that an anonymous benefactor had taken care of their account. He also began making regular appearances at the grocery store, ensuring that Destiny always had work if she wanted it. But now their interactions felt different. Instead of a desperate child trying to earn money for survival, Destiny approached window cleaning as a job she enjoyed rather than one she needed. Mr. Jonathan, she called out on a bright Tuesday morning, running over with her supplies. Guess what? Mama's teacher said she's the smartest student in her class. That doesn't surprise me at all, Jonathan replied, genuinely pleased. Your mama is remarkable. As Destiny worked on his windows with her characteristic care, she chattered about school and her latest art project. The worry lines that had creased her young face were beginning to fade, replaced by the natural joy of a child who could focus on being 8 years old. Are you gonna have dinner with us again soon? She asked hopefully. If your mama says it's okay, I'd love to. Jonathan had been thinking about that very thing. Their dinner at the restaurant had revealed so much about their situation, but he sensed there were still things Tiana hadn't shared. He wanted to understand their story completely so he could help more effectively. That evening he arrived at their apartment with groceries and a new lamp for Tiana's study area. When she opened the door, he could see textbooks spread across the small table where she had been studying. I hope I'm not interrupting, he said. Never, Tiana replied warmly. Destiny's been asking about you all day. Mr. Jonathan. Destiny bounced over to hug him. Did you bring milk again? I did. And some other things too. As Tiana unpacked the groceries, she discovered fresh vegetables, quality meat, bread, and various staples. But when she reached the bottom of the bag and found the lamp, her hands stilled. Jonathan, this is too much. You mentioned studying by lamplight because the overhead bulb burned out. This seemed practical. Destiny immediately plugged in the new lamp, and bright, clean light flooded their small living area. Wow. Now Mama can see her books real good. Tiana stood looking at the lamp with tears in her eyes. Such a simple thing, but Jonathan could see how much it meant to her. Thank you, she whispered. You don't know how much easier this will make everything. Over the following weeks, Jonathan established a pattern of small, practical gestures. New shoes for Destiny when he noticed holes in her old ones. A warm coat for Tiana when the weather turned cold. Medical supplies when he learned she was practicing nursing techniques at home. Each gift was presented as something practical rather than charity. The shoes were, so Destiny could walk to school safely. The coat was because healthcare workers shouldn't get sick. The medical supplies were study aids that would help her graduate faster. But the most significant gesture came when Jonathan learned about Destiny's injury, the one that had left the scar on her hand. It happened at the old apartment, Tiana explained during one of their dinner conversations. The window was broken and I had covered it with cardboard. One morning, Destiny was trying to look outside and the glass cut her hand. We couldn't afford the emergency room, so I treated it myself. Jonathan felt anger surge through him at the thought of this family having to choose between medical care and basic necessities. How bad was it? Bad enough that she probably needed stitches. But I'm studying nursing, so I knew how to clean and bandage it properly. It healed fine, just left a small scar. That night, Jonathan made another decision. The next day he arranged for both Tiana and Destiny to have complete physical exams with one of the best family doctors in the city. When Tiana protested that they couldn't afford it, he explained that it was part of a community health program he was funding. Everyone deserves quality health care, he told her. Especially people as important as you and Destiny. The doctor's visit revealed what Jonathan had suspected: both mother and daughter were essentially healthy but showed signs of the stress that came from chronic financial worry. Tiana had been skipping meals to make sure Destiny ate enough. Destiny had been having trouble sleeping because she worried about her mother. Nothing that can't be fixed with better nutrition and less stress, the doctor reported privately to Jonathan. But you're right to be concerned. They've been operating in survival mode for too long. Jonathan increased his grocery deliveries and began including vitamins and supplements. He also started inviting them to dinner more frequently, ostensibly because he enjoyed their company but really because he wanted to make sure they were eating well. During these dinners, he watched Tiana slowly begin to relax. The constant tension in her shoulders eased as the immediate pressures of rent and food became less urgent. She began smiling more readily and laughing at Destiny's jokes instead of worrying about the next crisis. Destiny blossomed even more dramatically. With basic needs secure, she threw herself into her schoolwork with renewed energy. Her teacher sent home glowing reports about her improved focus and participation. She joined the art club and began bringing home colorful drawings that Tiana proudly displayed on their refrigerator. "Look what I made today," Destiny announced during one dinner, pulling out a crayon drawing. "It's you and me and Mama." The drawing showed 3 figures standing in front of a house with a big sun overhead. Jonathan recognized himself by his business suit, Tiana by her scrubs, and Destiny by her bright smile. They were all holding hands. "It's beautiful," Jonathan said, genuinely moved. "Can I have a copy for my office?" "Really? You want to put my picture in your important office?" "It would be the most important thing there." Tiana watched this exchange with an expression Jonathan couldn't quite read. Later, as they prepared to leave the restaurant, she touched his arm gently. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why are you doing all this? I mean, really, why?" Jonathan considered his answer carefully. "Because meeting you and Destiny reminded me of something I had forgotten. Success means nothing if you don't use it to make life better for people who matter. But we were strangers when this started." "You're not strangers anymore," Jonathan said simply. "You're family." The word hung in the air between them, loaded with meaning that neither was quite ready to explore fully. But as they drove home that night, with Destiny chattering happily in the back seat, Jonathan realized he had spoken the truth without meaning to. These 2 people had become his family in every way that mattered. And for the first time in his adult life, he was beginning to understand that the most important investments weren't measured in dollars and returns, but in love and commitment and the simple joy of watching people you care about flourish. The bright streetlights illuminated their faces as they talked and laughed together, and Jonathan knew that whatever happened next, his life had been forever changed by a whispered request for milk in a grocery store parking lot. 2 months into their new routine, Jonathan had begun to take for granted the stability that had settled over the Washington family. Tiana was excelling in her final nursing program courses, and Destiny had transformed from a worried child into a bright, carefree 8-year-old who still cleaned his windows each morning but now treated it as a fun game rather than desperate work. That Tuesday morning started like any other. Jonathan pulled into his usual parking spot and immediately spotted Destiny's bright yellow shirt as she worked on a sedan near the store entrance. But something was different about her movements, slower, less energetic than usual. "Good morning, sunshine," he called out as he approached. Destiny turned and smiled, but Jonathan immediately noticed that her usual vibrant energy was missing. Her face looked flushed and she seemed to be having trouble focusing on her work. "Hi, Mr. Jonathan," she said, her voice smaller than normal. "I'm almost done with this one. Are you feeling okay? You look a little tired." "I'm fine," she insisted, but as she reached up to clean the car's rear window, she swayed slightly on her feet. Jonathan moved closer, his concern growing. "Destiny, when did you eat breakfast this morning?" "Mama made me toast, but my tummy felt funny so I didn't eat much." Before Jonathan could respond, Destiny suddenly dropped her spray bottle. Her eyes rolled back and she collapsed to the pavement. "Destiny?" Jonathan dropped to his knees beside her, his heart racing. Her small body was unconscious, her breathing shallow but steady. Several shoppers had noticed the commotion and gathered around. "Someone call 911. Jonathan shouted, gathering Destiny carefully in his arms. Her skin felt hot against his hands. She was running a fever. Within minutes, the ambulance arrived with flashing lights and professional efficiency. As the paramedics took over Destiny's care, Jonathan called Tiana's cell phone with shaking hands. "Jonathan." Tiana's voice was immediately alert despite the early hour. "Is everything okay?" "Tiana, I need you to meet us at City General Hospital." Destiny collapsed at the grocery store. "She's conscious now, but the paramedics want to take her in for evaluation." The silence on the other end lasted only seconds before Tiana's training kicked in. What were her symptoms? Was she running a fever? Yes, and she said her stomach felt funny. She seemed disoriented. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. Jonathan, thank you for being there." At the hospital, Jonathan paced the emergency room waiting area until Tiana burst through the doors still wearing her scrubs from her night shift at the nursing home. Her face was pale with worry, but her movements were controlled and purposeful. "Where is she?" Tiana asked the receptionist. "Room 3. The doctor is examining her now." Jonathan followed Tiana to the treatment area, where they found Destiny sitting up on an examination table, looking small and tired but alert. Her face brightened when she saw her mother. "Mama, I'm okay. The nice doctor gave me juice." Tiana immediately went to her daughter, checking her forehead for fever and examining her eyes with the practiced assessment of her nursing training. "How do you feel now, baby?" "Better. Just really tired." Dr. Patterson, a middle-aged physician with kind eyes, approached them with a chart in his hands. "Mrs. Washington? I'm Dr. Patterson. Destiny is going to be fine, but I'd like to discuss what we found." They moved to a consultation area where Destiny couldn't overhear. Jonathan started to step away to give them privacy, but Tiana caught his arm. "Please stay. You're part of this too." Dr. Patterson consulted his notes. Destiny was dehydrated and had low blood sugar, which caused her fainting spell. But the underlying issue is that she's been fighting off a mild infection for several days. Her body was depleted from trying to maintain her normal activity level while sick. "I should have noticed," Tiana said, guilt evident in her voice. "I've been so focused on studying for finals." "Don't blame yourself," Dr. Patterson interrupted gently. "Children often hide symptoms, especially when they don't want to worry their parents. But Destiny needs rest, proper nutrition, and a course of antibiotics to clear the infection." "Of course. Whatever she needs." Dr. Patterson handed her a prescription and care instructions. "I'd also recommend some follow-up blood work in a few days to make sure her levels return to normal. The infection itself isn't serious, but we want to monitor her recovery." As they prepared to leave the hospital, Jonathan made a decision. "Tiana, let me take care of the medical bills." "Jonathan, I can't." "Yes, you can. This is exactly the kind of situation health insurance should cover, and since you don't have it yet, I'm your insurance." Tiana looked at him with tears in her eyes. "I don't know how I'll ever repay you for everything you've done." "You don't need to repay anything. This is what people do for family." Over the next few days, Jonathan took personal time off work to help care for Destiny while Tiana attended her final exams. He brought soup and medicine, read stories, and kept her company while she recovered her strength. "Mr. Jonathan," Destiny said on the third day, curled up on the couch with a blanket, "are you gonna be my daddy?" The question caught Jonathan completely off guard. What makes you ask that? Because you take care of me and Mama like daddies do. And you love us, right? Jonathan felt his heart stop. In her innocent, direct way, Destiny had voiced something he hadn't fully admitted to himself. Yes, sweetheart. I do love you both very much. Then you should be our family for real. Mama needs someone to take care of her too. That evening, when Tiana returned from her last final exam, she found Jonathan and Destiny building a puzzle together on the living room floor. Destiny was finally back to her normal energetic self, chattering about the picture they were creating. How did your exam go? Jonathan asked as Tiana sank into their worn armchair. Good, I think. Great, actually. I felt more prepared than I have for any test this semester. She looked around their small apartment, the bright lamp, the full refrigerator, her daughter healthy and happy. I think I know why. Oh. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't worried about everything else falling apart while I focused on school. I could actually concentrate on learning because you made sure all our other needs were taken care of. Jonathan stood and moved to the window, looking out at the apartment complex parking lot where he had first followed Destiny home. I never expected any of this when I bought that first gallon of milk. What did you expect? He turned back to face her, noting how beautiful she looked despite her exhaustion. I don't know. Maybe I just expected to feel good about helping someone. I didn't expect to fall in love. The words hung in the air between them. Destiny looked up from her puzzle with interest, while Tiana stared at Jonathan with wide eyes. Jonathan. I know this is complicated, he continued quickly. I know we come from different worlds and I know you value your independence. But these past few months have been the happiest of my life. Not because of what I've been able to give you, but because of what you and Destiny have given me. Tiana stood slowly and walked over to him. What have we given you? Purpose. Joy. A reason to care about something beyond profit margins and stock prices. You've given me a family. She reached up and touched his face gently. You saved us, Jonathan. When Destiny collapsed in that parking lot, you were there. When we couldn't afford medicine, you made sure she got what she needed. When I was too tired to see that my daughter was getting sick, you were paying attention. Any decent person would have done the same thing. No, Tiana said firmly. They wouldn't have. You're not just any decent person. You're extraordinary. Destiny abandoned her puzzle and came over to hug both of them. Does this mean Mr. Jonathan is gonna be my daddy now? Jonathan and Tiana looked at each other over her head, both smiling through their tears. What do you think? Tiana asked Jonathan softly. I think, Jonathan said, gathering both of them in his arms, that I'd like nothing more than to be your family. If you'll have me. As the bright evening light filtered through their windows, the three of them stood together in the small apartment that had become the center of Jonathan's world. The medical crisis that had frightened them all had also forced them to acknowledge what they had all been feeling but hadn't dared to voice. They were already a family. Now they just needed to make it official. The weeks following Destiny's medical crisis marked a turning point in their relationship. Jonathan found himself spending more and more time at the small apartment, helping with everything from homework supervision to grocery shopping. But he was careful to maintain boundaries, sleeping in his own penthouse and giving Tiana space to process their evolving connection. You don't have to keep living in that tiny place, he said one evening as they cleaned up after dinner. Destiny was at the table working on a math worksheet, her recovery complete and her energy fully restored. Tiana paused in washing dishes, her hands still in the soapy water. This is our home, Jonathan. It may not be much, but it's ours. I understand that. But what if we found something that could be yours too? Something bigger, safer, in a better neighborhood? You mean rent us a nicer apartment? I mean buy you a house. In your name. Something Destiny could have a real yard to play in, something with enough space for you to study without using the kitchen table. Tiana turned to face him, her expression cautious. Jonathan, that's incredibly generous, but... I need to know this is real. Not just you being kind to people you feel sorry for. Jonathan set down the dish he was drying and moved closer to her. Tiana, I haven't felt sorry for you since the day I met you. What I feel is admiration, respect, and... He glanced at Destiny, who was absorbed in her homework. Love. I love you too, she said softly. That's what scares me. Why does it scare you? Tiana pulled her hands from the water and dried them slowly. Because I've been taking care of myself and Destiny for so long, I don't know how to let someone else help. And because your world is so different from ours. My world doesn't matter. What matters is building a world together. Over the following days, Jonathan proved his commitment through consistency rather than grand gestures. He arrived every morning at the same time to have coffee with Tiana before she went to her clinical rotations. He picked up Destiny from school when Tiana's schedule ran late. He helped with laundry, attended parent-teacher conferences, and learned to braid Destiny's hair when Tiana had early morning shifts. "Mr. Jonathan," Destiny said one afternoon as he helped her with a science project about plants, "why don't you have kids of your own?" "I never found the right family," he answered honestly. "Until now." "So you want me to be your little girl?" Jonathan's heart swelled. "I would be honored to be your dad if that's what you want. Can I call you Daddy?" "If your mama says it's okay." Destiny immediately ran to Tiana, who was studying at the kitchen table. "Mama, can I call Mr. Jonathan Daddy? He said he wants to be my dad." Tiana looked up from her textbook to find both Destiny and Jonathan watching her expectantly. The weight of the moment wasn't lost on her. This was about more than what Destiny called him. This was about officially becoming a family. "Do you want to call him Daddy?" she asked her daughter. "Yes. He does daddy things already. He helps with homework and comes to my school stuff and takes care of us when we're sick." Tiana looked at Jonathan, who was waiting patiently for her decision. "If Jonathan wants to be your daddy and you want him to be your daddy, then yes, you can call him that." "Daddy." Destiny launched herself into Jonathan's arms with pure joy. As Jonathan held the little girl who was becoming his daughter, he met Tiana's eyes over her head. "Thank you," he mouthed silently. That evening, after Destiny had gone to bed, Jonathan and Tiana sat together on the small couch, finally ready to have the conversation they had been building toward for weeks. "I've been thinking about the house," Tiana said. "Not because I want you to spend money on us, but because Destiny deserves better than this. And you deserve better too. I can take care of myself, Jonathan. I always have. I know you can. That's one of the things I love most about you. But you don't have to anymore. We're a team now." Tiana leaned against his shoulder, finally allowing herself to relax completely. "It's hard for me to accept help. Even from you. I know. But think of it this way, I'm not helping you. I'm investing in our future. In Destiny's future. In the family we're building together." "The family we're building," she repeated softly. "I like the sound of that." The next morning, Jonathan arrived with coffee and a folder full of house listings. "I thought we could look at these together. See what feels right for our family." They spread the listings across the kitchen table while Destiny got ready for school. Each house was in a good neighborhood with excellent schools, reasonable but not ostentatious, with yards and safety and room to grow. "This one has a tree house," Destiny announced, looking over their shoulders at a photo of a white colonial with a large oak tree in the backyard. "It does," Jonathan agreed. "What do you think, Tiana?" She studied the listing carefully. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a quiet street in a family-oriented neighborhood. "It's beautiful. But Jonathan, the price is irrelevant. What matters is whether you can see us being happy there." Tiana looked at the photos again, imagining Destiny playing in that backyard, imagining herself and Jonathan cooking dinner together in that bright kitchen. "I can see it," she admitted. "Then let's go look at it this weekend." Saturday morning found the 3 of them walking through the house together, Destiny running from room to room with excitement while Tiana and Jonathan followed more slowly, both imagining their life in these spaces. "This could be your study," Jonathan said, showing Tiana a small bedroom that got excellent natural light. "No more kitchen table studying." "And this is my room," Destiny called from across the hall. "Look, it's big enough for a real desk and everything." The master bedroom overlooked the backyard, with windows that let in bright morning sun. Tiana stood looking out at the treehouse, imagining wake up in this room with Jonathan beside her. "What do you think?" he asked quietly. "I think," she said, turning to face him, "that it feels like home." That afternoon, Jonathan made an offer on the house. By evening it was accepted. "Just like that?" Tiana asked, still somewhat stunned by how quickly things were moving. "Just like that. We can move in next month." Destiny was practically vibrating with excitement. "A real house. With a yard. And my own room. Can we get a dog too?" Jonathan and Tiana looked at each other and burst out laughing. "Let's get used to the house first," Tiana said. As they celebrated with ice cream that evening, Jonathan watched his new family with deep contentment. 6 months ago, he had been a successful but lonely man whose biggest concerns were stock prices and board meetings. Now he was planning a future with a brilliant woman and her remarkable daughter, thinking about tree houses and dogs and all the beautiful ordinary moments that made up a real life. "Thank you," Tiana said softly as they tucked Destiny into bed. For what? For seeing us. For believing in us. For loving us enough to build something real. Jonathan kissed her forehead gently. Thank you for letting me be part of your family. As they turned off the lights and prepared to leave Destiny's room, her sleepy voice called out in the darkness. Daddy? Will you read me a story tomorrow night in our new house? Every night, sweetheart, Jonathan promised. Every single night. The trust they had built over these careful weeks had created something unbreakable. They were ready to take the next step together, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them as a family. Moving day arrived with bright spring sunshine and an energy that infected everyone involved. Jonathan had arranged for professional movers, but Destiny insisted on carrying her most precious possessions herself: her stuffed animals, art supplies, and the framed picture she had drawn of their family. Careful with that lamp, Tiana called out as the movers packed Jonathan's gift from their first weeks together. It's very special to us. Jonathan watched from the doorway as Tiana supervised the packing of their small apartment. Every item held memories of their struggle and growth together. Even the worn furniture that they were leaving behind had been part of their journey. Are you sad to leave this place? He asked her. A little, she admitted. This apartment represents everything I accomplished on my own. But the new house represents everything we're building together. I'm ready for that. Destiny bounced between them, unable to contain her excitement. Can we go see the treehouse as soon as we get there? Can we plant flowers in the garden? Can I help you cook dinner in the big kitchen? Yes to all of it, Jonathan laughed. But first we need to get everything moved. The drive to their new neighborhood felt symbolic to Jonathan. With each mile, they were leaving behind the world of financial struggle and entering a place where Destiny could simply be a child and Tiana could focus on her career dreams without worrying about basic survival. When they pulled into the driveway of their new home, Destiny pressed her face to the car window in wonder. It's really ours? It's really ours, Tiana confirmed, her voice thick with emotion. The white Colonial looked even more welcoming than it had during their tour. The moving truck was already there, and neighbors had begun to gather curiously on their front lawns. Jonathan had chosen this street specifically because it was full of families with children. Welcome to the neighborhood, called a woman from the house next door, walking over with a plate of cookies. I'm Linda Chin. My daughter Sophie is 8 too. She's been excited to meet your little girl. Jonathan felt Tiana's hand slip into his as they introduced themselves to Linda and the other neighbors who came over to greet them. This was what he had wanted for his family, a place where they belonged, where Destiny could make friends and Tiana could put down real roots. The moving process took most of the day, but it felt like a celebration rather than work. Destiny helped by directing where her furniture should go and offering cookies to the movers. Tiana organized their belongings with the efficiency she brought to everything, while Jonathan handled the logistics and setup of utilities. By evening, the house was beginning to feel like home. Their furniture from the apartment looked small in the larger rooms, but Jonathan had already ordered additional pieces that would arrive throughout the week. What mattered most was that their personal touches were in place: Destiny's artwork on the refrigerator, Tiana's nursing textbooks on her new desk, family photos on the mantelpiece. Daddy, can we explore the backyard now? Destiny asked after they had finished a dinner of pizza on the living room floor. The backyard was even better than the photos had suggested. The treehouse was sturdy and well built, with a rope ladder that Destiny immediately began climbing. The garden area had good soil for planting, and there was plenty of room for the swing set Jonathan was planning to install. This is the best day ever, Destiny announced from her perch in the treehouse. I can see the whole neighborhood from up here. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in bright oranges and purples, the three of them sat together on the back porch steps. Tiana leaned against Jonathan's shoulder while Destiny curled up between them, finally exhausted from the excitement of the day. So what happens now? Tiana asked softly. Now we live here. We make this place ours. Destiny grows up in this yard, you finish nursing school in that study, and we figure out how to be a family together. Just like that. Just like that. Over the following weeks, the house truly became their home. Jonathan learned to navigate the morning routine of getting Destiny ready for her new school while Tiana prepared for her clinical rotations. They established family traditions: Sunday morning pancakes, evening walks around the neighborhood, bedtime stories in Destiny's new room. Tiana passed her final nursing exam with honors and immediately received 3 job offers from hospitals in the area. The celebration dinner Jonathan planned at their favorite restaurant felt different this time: not charity or sympathy, but a genuine celebration of her achievement. I'm so proud of you, he told her as they raised their glasses. You did something extraordinary. We did something extraordinary, she corrected. I couldn't have finished school without your support. You could have, Jonathan said firmly. It would have taken longer and been much harder, but you would have done it. That's who you are. Destiny, resplendent in a new dress for the occasion, raised her milk glass to join their toast. To Mama being the smartest nurse in the whole hospital. As spring turned to summer, their life settled into a rhythm that felt natural and right. Jonathan worked from his home office more often, enjoying the sounds of his family moving through the house. Tiana started her new job with enthusiasm, finally able to use her training to help patients instead of just studying about it. Destiny blossomed in her new school and neighborhood, making friends easily and excelling in her classes. You know what I realized today? Tiana said one evening as they worked together in their garden, planting the flowers Destiny had requested. What's that? 6 months ago, my biggest dream was just surviving until I graduated. Now I'm planning what kind of vegetables to plant next season. Jonathan looked up from the tomato plants he was arranging. And how does that feel? Scary and wonderful at the same time. Like maybe I'm allowed to have bigger dreams now. What kind of bigger dreams? Tiana glanced toward the house, where Destiny was visible through the kitchen window, setting the table for dinner. Dreams about our future. About maybe having more children someday. About growing old together in this house. Jonathan set down his gardening tools and moved to sit beside her on the grass. I have those same dreams. Really? Really? I think about what it would be like to watch Destiny graduate from high school in this neighborhood. I think about teaching our future children to climb that treehouse. I think about sitting on this porch when we're old and gray, watching our grandchildren play in this yard. Tiana leaned against him, both of them looking at their house, their home glowing in the bright evening light. It still doesn't feel completely real sometimes. What would make it feel real? She was quiet for a long moment, considering. I think it would feel real if we made it official. All of it. Official how? You know how, she said softly, not meeting his eyes. Jonathan felt his heart race as he understood what she was suggesting. Marriage. The final step in making their family complete. Is that what you want? He asked carefully. Is that what you want? I want whatever makes you and Destiny happiest. Then yes, Tiana said, finally looking at him with clear, certain eyes. That's what I want. I want to be your wife, and I want you to be Destiny's legal father, and I want us to be a real family in every possible way. As if summoned by their conversation, Destiny appeared on the back porch. Dinner's ready, and I made lemonade all by myself. Jonathan and Tiana looked at their daughter because that's what she had become, their daughter, and then at each other. Should we tell her? Tiana whispered. Tell me what? Destiny called, always alert to adult conversations that might concern her. Jonathan stood and walked over to the porch, reaching up to lift Destiny down to the grass. We were just talking about how much we love living in this house with you. I love it too. This is the best house ever, and you're the best daddy ever, and Mama's the best mama ever. As the three of them walked back toward their bright, welcoming home together, Jonathan knew that tomorrow he would begin planning the proposal that would make their family official. But tonight he simply wanted to enjoy this perfect moment, the three of them together in their own backyard, safe and loved and home. The house that had once been just a real estate listing had become the foundation for their future. Inside those walls they had learned to be a family. Soon, it would witness their commitment to love each other forever. Summer brought a rhythm to their lives that felt both comfortable and exciting. Jonathan had adjusted his work schedule to be present for the important moments: Destiny's swimming lessons, Tiana's graduation from nursing school, and the countless small daily interactions that formed the foundation of their family life. Daddy, watch this. Destiny called from the community pool, preparing to jump off the diving board for the first time. Jonathan stood in the shallow end with his arms outstretched, ready to catch her if needed. I'm watching, sweetheart. You've got this. Tiana sat in the poolside chair, studying for her nursing board exams while keeping one eye on her family. Watching Jonathan with Destiny never failed to amaze her. His patience seemed endless, his enthusiasm for her achievements genuine and boundless. Mama, did you see? I jumped all by myself. Destiny swam over to the side of the pool, breathless with excitement. I saw. You were so brave. Tiana marked her place in her textbook and knelt down to high-five her daughter. These were the moments Jonathan treasured most, the ordinary afternoon activities that had become extraordinary because they were shared. He had been planning the perfect proposal for weeks, carrying the ring in his pocket everywhere they went, waiting for the ideal moment to ask Tiana to marry him. That evening, as they grilled dinner in their backyard, Jonathan watched Tiana help Destiny with a science project about butterflies. The late summer light caught the highlights in Tiana's hair, and her laughter at something Destiny said filled him with such contentment that he could barely breathe. "Earth to Jonathan," Tiana called, waving her hand in front of his face. "The burgers are going to burn if you keep daydreaming." "Sorry," he said, flipping the meat with a sheepish grin. "I was just thinking about how perfect this is." "Daddy always gets mushy when we cook outside," Destiny informed her mother seriously. "I think it's because he likes our family dinners." "Is that true?" Tiana asked, moving to stand beside him at the grill. "Completely true. Some of my happiest moments happen right here in this backyard." After dinner, they settled into their evening routine. Destiny took her bath while Jonathan cleaned the kitchen and Tiana prepared her nursing study materials. The domestic normalcy of it all still amazed him 6 months ago. He had lived alone in a sterile penthouse, eating takeout and working until midnight. Now his evenings were filled with homework help, bedtime stories, and quiet conversations with the woman he loved. "Daddy, will you read to me tonight?" Destiny asked, appearing in the kitchen in her pajamas, hair still damp from her bath. "Of course. What book are we reading?" "The one about the princess who becomes a doctor." Mama picked it out. Jonathan looked at Tiana, who was organizing her study notes at the kitchen table. "A princess doctor? I thought it was important for her to read stories about women who have careers and adventures," Tiana explained. "Not just fairy tales where princesses wait to be rescued." "Smart mama," Jonathan said, dropping a kiss on top of Tiana's head as he passed. Upstairs in Destiny's room, Jonathan settled into the reading chair they had bought specifically for these nightly sessions. The room looked so different from the cramped space she had occupied in the apartment. Here she had room for a real desk, bookshelves, and all the art supplies she could want. "Daddy," Destiny said as he opened the book, "can I ask you something?" "Always." "Are you going to marry Mama?" Jonathan's heart skipped several beats. "What makes you ask that?" "Because Tommy at school says that's what daddies and mamas do when they love each other." "And you love Mama, right?" "I do love Mama. Very much. And she loves you too. I can tell because she smiles different now than she used to." Jonathan set the book aside, giving Destiny his full attention. "How does she smile different?" "Before you came, Mama smiled because she was trying to make me happy, even when she was worried about things. Now she smiles because she really is happy." The wisdom of this 8-year-old never ceased to amaze him. "And how would you feel if I married Mama?" "I would feel happy. Then you would be my real daddy forever and ever, not just my practice daddy." "Destiny, I'm already your real daddy. Marriage doesn't change that. But it would make it official, right? Like Mama and I becoming Washingtons when I was born?" "Something like that, yes." Destiny considered this seriously. "I think you should ask her soon. She's been extra happy lately, and happy mamas say yes to things." Jonathan laughed, amazed by her logic. "Is that so?" "Yep. Can we read the story now?" The princess doctor is about to save a whole kingdom. As Jonathan read about the brave princess who used her medical knowledge to heal her people, he thought about the brave woman downstairs who had used her determination and intelligence to build a better life for her daughter. Tiana was more heroic than any fairy tale character, and she deserved a proposal as thoughtful and meaningful as she was. After tucking Destiny into bed, Jonathan found Tiana in their living room, study materials spread across the coffee table. She had changed into comfortable clothes and pulled her hair back, but to him she looked as beautiful as ever. "How's the studying going?" he asked, settling beside her on the couch. "Good. I think I'm really ready for the boards. It feels strange to be this close to finishing everything I've worked toward for so long." "Are you nervous?" "A little. But also excited. I keep thinking about how different life is going to be when I'm actually working as an RN instead of studying to become one." Jonathan watched her face as she spoke about her future, their future. "Different how?" "More stable. More secure. I'll be able to contribute financially to our household instead of just accepting everything you give us." "Tiana," Jonathan said gently, "you contribute far more than money to this family." "I know. But it matters to me to be an equal partner in all ways." This was the perfect opening for the conversation he had been planning. "Speaking of being partners?" Before he could continue, Tiana's phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID and frowned. "It's the hospital. I should take this." The conversation was brief but concerning. When she hung up, her expression was troubled. "What's wrong?" Jonathan asked. "That was my supervisor from clinical rotations. One of the other students in my program was in a car accident tonight. She's okay, but she won't be able to take the boards next week with the rest of us." I'm sorry to hear that. Is there anything we can do to help? Actually, there is. The nursing program is asking if any of us would be willing to postpone our board exam to take it with her in a few weeks. She's my study partner and we've helped each other through the whole program. Jonathan knew immediately what Tiana would decide. Her loyalty and compassion were among the qualities he loved most about her. You want to wait and take it with her, he said. Is that crazy? I'm so ready now, and waiting means more weeks of studying and stress. But it means your friend won't have to face it alone. Exactly. Tiana looked at him gratefully. You understand. I understand that you're the kind of person who puts friendship and kindness above convenience. It's one of the reasons I love you. They talked for another hour about the decision, weighing the pros and cons, but Jonathan knew Tiana had already made up her mind. She would wait for her friend because that's who she was. As they prepared for bed, Jonathan decided that perhaps this postponement was fate's way of telling him to wait a little longer for the perfect moment to propose. When Tiana passed her nursing boards and officially became an RN, that would be the ideal time to ask her to become his wife. Thank you for supporting my decision about the exam, Tiana said as they turned off the lights. Thank you for being the kind of person who makes decisions like that. Destiny is lucky to have such a compassionate role model. We're all lucky, Tiana said softly. 6 months ago, I never could have imagined having a life this good. As Jonathan lay in the darkness listening to Tiana's breathing even out into sleep, he thought about Destiny's words earlier that evening. Happy mamas say yes to things. Soon, very soon, he would find out if an 8-year-old's wisdom about love was as accurate as her insights about everything else. The ring in his dresser drawer would wait a little longer, but his certainty about their future together grew stronger every day. They were already a family in every way that mattered. Soon they would make it official forever. 3 weeks later, Tiana walked out of the testing center with her nursing boards completed and a smile that could have powered the entire city. Jonathan and Destiny were waiting in the parking lot, holding a bouquet of flowers and a sign that read, "Congratulations, Nurse Tiana." I passed, she called out, running toward them. I know I passed. Jonathan swept her up in his arms, spinning her around as Destiny cheered and clapped. I'm so proud of you, he whispered in her ear. So incredibly proud. We're going to celebrate, Destiny announced. Daddy planned a special surprise. The surprise was a picnic in the park where they had first talked about their future together. Jonathan had arranged everything carefully: a basket full of Tiana's favorite foods, a blanket under their favorite oak tree, and hidden in his jacket pocket, the engagement ring he had carried for weeks. This is perfect, Tiana said as they settled on the blanket. The early autumn afternoon was bright and warm, with just enough breeze to make the leaves whisper overhead. I can't think of a better way to celebrate. Destiny immediately unpacked the picnic basket, chattering excitedly about all the treats Jonathan had included. Look, Mama. He got those little sandwiches you like and the fancy cheese and chocolate cake. As they ate and talked about Tiana's exam and her upcoming job interviews, Jonathan felt his nervousness growing. He had practiced this moment dozens of times, but now that it was here, his heart was racing with anticipation. Daddy, you're not eating, Destiny observed. Are you sick? Just excited for Mama, he said, forcing himself to take a bite of sandwich. After they finished eating, Destiny wandered off to explore the nearby playground, giving Jonathan and Tiana a few moments alone. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for. Tiana, he began, his voice slightly hoarse with emotion. These past few months have been the most meaningful of my life. She looked at him curiously, noting the serious tone in his voice. Mine too. When I met Destiny in that parking lot, I thought I was just helping a child who needed milk. I had no idea that following her home would lead me to the love of my life. Jonathan. He stood up and reached for her hands, pulling her to her feet. You and Destiny have taught me what really matters. Not success or money or achievements, but love and family and building something beautiful together. Tiana's eyes began to fill with tears as she realized what was happening. Are you? I am. Jonathan dropped to one knee, pulling the ring box from his pocket. The diamond caught the bright afternoon sunlight, sparkling like captured starlight. Tiana Washington, you are the strongest, most beautiful, most inspiring woman I have ever known. You've made me a better man, and you've given me the greatest gift I could ever ask for a family. Oh my God, Tiana whispered, her hands covering her mouth. Will you marry me? Will you let me be your husband and Destiny's father officially? Will you build the rest of our lives with me? From across the playground, Destiny's voice rang out clearly. Say yes, Mama. Say yes. Both Jonathan and Tiana turned to see their daughter hanging from the monkey bars, grinning widely. Apparently she had been watching the entire time. "Did you plan this with her?" Tiana asked, laughing through her tears. "She may have been consulted," Jonathan admitted. "So what do you say?" Tiana looked down at the man she loved, kneeling in the grass with hope and certainty shining in his eyes. Behind him, their daughter was cheering quietly, trying not to disturb the moment but clearly invested in the outcome. "Yes," she said, her voice strong and clear. "Yes, I'll marry you. Yes to everything." Jonathan slipped the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, then stood to kiss her as Destiny ran over to join their celebration. "We're getting married," Destiny shouted, throwing her arms around both of them. "We're going to be a real family." "We already are a real family," Tiana said, holding both of them close. "Now we're just making it official." The engagement ring fit perfectly, catching the light as Tiana admired it. Jonathan had chosen it carefully, elegant but not ostentatious, beautiful but practical for a working nurse. "When did you buy this?" she asked. "The day after you told me you wanted to make everything official. I've been carrying it around for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment." "This is perfect," she assured him. "Everything about this is perfect." They spent the rest of the afternoon at the park, talking about wedding plans and their future together. Destiny had strong opinions about everything from the color of flowers to the flavor of cake, while Tiana and Jonathan focused on the more important questions: when and where to have the ceremony, whether to have a big celebration or something small and intimate. "I want something that feels like us," Tiana said. "Not too fancy but meaningful. Maybe in our backyard? With just the people who really matter to us." "That sounds perfect. Though I think Destiny might have different ideas about the scale." "We could have a big party afterward," Destiny suggested. "With dancing and lots of cake." As the sun began to set, painting the park in warm golden light, the three of them packed up their picnic and headed home. But instead of going straight to their house, Jonathan made a detour. "Where are we going?" Tiana asked. "There's one more stop I want to make." He drove to the grocery store where it all began, the parking lot where he had first met Destiny and heard her whispered request for milk. The lot was mostly empty now, just a few evening shoppers moving between their cars. "Why here?" Tiana asked, though she was beginning to understand. "Because this is where our story started. Where a little girl asked for milk and changed my entire life." Destiny looked around the familiar parking lot with new eyes. "This is where I met Daddy." "This is where we met each other," Jonathan corrected. "All of us." They stood together in the spot where Jonathan had first given Destiny the gallon of milk that began everything. So much had changed since that morning. They had a home now, security, love, and a future together. But it had all started here with 3 simple words: "I just want milk." "What are you thinking about?" Tiana asked, watching Jonathan's face. "I'm thinking about how one small act of kindness led to this moment. How buying milk for a stranger's daughter led me to the family I never knew I needed." "It wasn't just your kindness," Tiana said softly. "It was Destiny's courage in asking, and my willingness to trust you, and all of us being brave enough to let love happen." As they drove home to their house, their real home, where wedding planning would begin in earnest, Jonathan reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. From a parking lot encounter to an engagement ring, from a struggling single mother to his future wife, from a lonely billionaire to a man who understood what true wealth really meant. The bright streetlights illuminated their faces as they talked excitedly about wedding details and their future together. Tomorrow, Tiana would start looking for nursing jobs as an engaged woman. Destiny would tell her friends at school that her daddy had proposed to her mama. And Jonathan would begin the legal process of officially adopting Destiny. But tonight, they were simply a family driving home together, with an engagement ring sparkling on Tiana's finger and hearts full of hope for all the beautiful tomorrows stretching ahead of them. The milk that had started it all was long since forgotten, but the love it had helped create would last forever. 6 months later, on a bright Saturday morning in their own backyard, Tiana Washington became Tiana Pierce in a ceremony that perfectly captured who they were as a family. The oak tree with Destiny's tree house provided a natural altar, while their neighbors and new friends filled the chairs arranged on the lawn. Tiana walked down the grass aisle wearing a simple but elegant white dress, her hand in Destiny's as her 8-year-old daughter served as both maid of honor and flower girl. The sight of his 2 girls approaching through the dappled sunlight took Jonathan's breath away. "You look beautiful," he whispered to Tiana as she reached him. "We look beautiful," she corrected, including Destiny in their moment. The officiant, a family court judge who would also handle Destiny's adoption proceedings later that week, smiled at the 3 of them. "We are gathered today to celebrate not just the marriage of Jonathan and Tiana, but the official formation of a family that has already been united by love. As they exchanged vows, both Jonathan and Tiana spoke about the journey that had brought them together. Jonathan talked about learning that true wealth came from love and family, while Tiana spoke about discovering that accepting help didn't mean giving up strength. "I promise to love you through every challenge and celebrate every joy," Jonathan said, slipping the wedding band onto Tiana's finger. "I promise to be the father destiny deserves and the husband you need. I promise to build this life with you as equal partners," Tiana replied, her voice strong and clear. "I promise to trust in our love and never let pride keep us from supporting each other." When it came time for the rings, Destiny proudly presented the pillow she had carried, beaming as the adults she loved most made their commitment official. "By the power vested in me by the state, I now pronounce you husband and wife," the judge declared. "Jonathan, you may kiss your bride." The kiss was sweet and full of promise, while Destiny cheered along with their guests. But the moment that moved everyone to tears came next, when the judge called Destiny forward. "Destiny Washington," he said formally, "your father has petitioned to adopt you. Do you want Jonathan Pierce to be your legal father?" "Yes," Destiny said loudly, causing laughter to ripple through the crowd. "I want Daddy to be my daddy forever." "Then by the power vested in me, I hereby grant this adoption. Destiny, you are now officially Destiny Pierce, daughter of Jonathan and Tiana Pierce." Jonathan knelt down to hug his daughter, his legal daughter, as she threw her arms around his neck. "I love you, Daddy." "I love you too, sweetheart. Forever and always." The reception was exactly what they had planned, a joyful celebration in their backyard with dancing, laughter and plenty of cake. Destiny had gotten her wish for a big party, complete with a DJ and twinkling lights strung between the trees. As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, the new Pierce family found themselves alone in their backyard, surrounded by the remnants of their perfect day. "Mrs. Pierce," Jonathan said, pulling his wife close for a dance to the music still playing softly through the speakers. "I like the sound of that," Tiana replied, resting her head on his shoulder. "Me too," Destiny called from her perch in the treehouse, where she was still wearing her flower girl dress. "We're all Pierces now." 3 months later, Tiana was thriving in her new job at the Children's Hospital downtown, finally using her nursing skills to help families navigate medical crises. Jonathan had adjusted his business schedule to be present for school events and family dinners, discovering that his company ran just as well when he prioritized work-life balance. Destiny was excelling in 4th grade, her natural intelligence now supported by a stable home environment and parents who could help with homework without worrying about rent money. She had joined the school choir and art club, and her drawings now included family portraits featuring 3 people who were all smiling. On a Sunday morning exactly 1 year after Jonathan first gave Destiny a gallon of milk, the family decided to return to the grocery store where it all began. It had become an annual tradition, a way to remember how far they had come. "Look," Destiny said, pointing to the spot where she used to wash windows. "That's where I met Daddy." A new family was loading groceries into their car nearby, a tired-looking mother with 2 small children who were clearly testing her patience. Jonathan watched as the woman counted coins carefully before deciding whether she could afford the gallon of milk in her cart. Without hesitation, he walked over to her. "Excuse me, I couldn't help but notice you're doing some careful budgeting. I'd like to pay for your groceries today." The woman looked at him suspiciously. "Why would you do that?" "Because someone once told me that kindness creates ripples that spread farther than we can imagine. Consider this a ripple." Tiana and Destiny watched with pride as Jonathan quietly paid for the stranger's groceries, refusing to accept any thanks beyond the woman's tears of gratitude. This was the man they loved, someone who had learned that success meant using his blessings to bless others. "You know what I realized?" Tiana said as they drove home to their house full of wedding photos and adoption certificates. "What's that?" "That little girl in the parking lot didn't just ask you for milk. She asked for hope. And you gave her so much more than either of you ever expected." Jonathan reached over to squeeze her hand, the gold wedding band on his finger catching the bright morning light. "We all did. We gave each other everything we needed." In the back seat, Destiny was humming contentedly as she worked on a new drawing. When she finished, she held it up proudly. It showed their house with 3 figures in the front yard, a man in a suit, a woman in scrubs, and a little girl with braided hair. Above them, she had written in careful letters, "The Pierce family love made us official." As they pulled into their driveway, Jonathan looked at his wife and daughter and felt the same overwhelming gratitude that had filled him every day since a child's whispered request had changed his life forever. They had built something beautiful together, not just through money or generosity, but through trust, commitment, and the simple courage to love completely. The house that welcomed them home was filled with laughter, security, and the bright promise of all the ordinary, extraordinary days still to come. Inside, the refrigerator held a fresh gallon of milk not because they couldn't afford it, but because it reminded them daily of how love could transform everything. Their story had started with 3 simple words, "I just want milk." But it had become something much bigger, a testament to the power of kindness, the importance of family, and the truth that sometimes the most meaningful gifts come from listening to whispered requests and responding with an open heart. In the end, Jonathan had learned that being a billionaire meant nothing compared to being a husband and father. Tiana had discovered that accepting love didn't diminish her strength but amplified it. And Destiny had grown up knowing that families could be chosen, that kindness was real, and that sometimes people really did live happily ever after. The bright afternoon sun shone down on their home as the Pierce family went inside to begin another chapter of their life together, carrying with them the unshakable knowledge that love, once given freely, multiplies beyond measure and lasts forever. Dear readers, thank you for joining Jonathan, Tiana, and Destiny on their heartwarming journey from a chance encounter in a parking lot to a family united by love. Their story reminds us that sometimes the most powerful transformations begin with the smallest acts of kindness. What moment in this story touched your heart the most? Was it Destiny's whispered request for milk, Tiana's determination to build a better life, or Jonathan's discovery that true wealth comes from family? Have you ever experienced or witnessed a moment where unexpected kindness changed someone's life? We'd love to hear your thoughts and your own stories of hope and transformation in the comments below.